Thank you for joining us again at Handle Your Business with Bobby Dino. I am here with Zach Homol. Zach Homol is a personality that's on Twitter. He's a totally groovy dude that has a really good heart, comes across as totally genuine, is in the health section, has his own gym. Really cool guy that I've had the pleasure of meeting. Thank you for joining us today, Zach.
Dude, Bobby, thanks for having me, dude. I really appreciate the intro, too. I got a lot to live up to here.
No, Zach and I were talking yesterday. I was on his show, and it's cool when you have the opportunity to meet people, right? And you know them from what they're typing, essentially. That doesn't always come across when you actually meet someone. So it was, from my perspective, it was really nice to see someone to where I go, oh, hey, this dude's pretty cool, man. And then talk to him, and he totally lives up to the hype. You know, so that was cool, man.
Dude, that's so true too, because there's been a lot of personality types. I'm in the fitness space, so I wouldn't go to like the Arnold Classic is real big here, in Columbus, Ohio. So like people come from all over the United States to go to the Arnold Classic, and essentially you go there and you get a whole bunch of free supplements. But while you go is you get to meet the more famous guys on social media, the stronger lifters, and whatever that might look like, your favorite bodybuilder. And you go there and you see just how much different sometimes there's someone that you might look up to. And I was early on, I was maybe a junior in high school. I was traveling up and I was seeing how some of these guys were. I'm like, wait a second, you're not like that. That's not how you're acting. It was that time it was on Facebook or YouTube. I was looking these guys up. So you really get to see, social media is a funny place. We're able to really see a lot of different personalities on social media, and we're also able to draw a lot of parallels with it and how they actually are in the real life.
Yeah, totally. And that's one of the experiences that I've had with meeting different people. Luckily, most of the people that I've met have been cool. And it's been something that by and large has been a positive experience. But there have been those that I've met that have one type of social media presence, right? And then you learn a little bit about their background, or you see how they act, or you see like who they just are in person. And you're just like, wait a second, something's amiss here. That's not right. What's going on here? So you're saying that happens a lot when you're dealing with the fitness world.
Yeah, you see it a lot. Well, you know why though? Here's the deal with the fitness space. You gotta remember, people get into fitness for one particular reason, themselves. You get into fitness because you want to strengthen yourself, you want to grow your body. So the ego is super attached to the realm that I've chose as a profession. It's all about look at me and look what I can do. And then when that goes and it collides with the egotistical generation that we're leading into as far as self-branding, it's like you have a clash of this, ego, and then a clash of also I got to promote myself so people want to follow my content, or I got to show how great my abs are so people want to buy my ab book. And it kind of just meshes with that personality. Then you get this fake sense of fame, 20,000 followers on social media, whatever this might look like. And then you can actually just draw those parallels, like, okay, that makes sense to why they act that particular way. But you see it a little bit more in a fitness space. Outside of the fitness space, though, and I'm kind of finding this new side of Twitter, and that's also what I've noticed on Twitter, too. Got this new side of Twitter. I've noticed, though, people seem to be more genuine on Twitter in relation to Instagram. Instagram really seems like a lot more of a highlight reel, where Twitter to me seems more of like an information reel, that at least with the following that I'm choosing, to people that I'm choosing to follow, it seems like they're mostly just instructions, like, hey, this is what that's what I specialize in, and this is the type of information that I'm sharing. Not so much like, oh, look at me and look what I've done.
Yeah, I could agree with that. And I think a lot of the reason for that is that it's actual reading. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can do little, as a matter of fact, that's one of the areas that Instagram kind of beats Twitter, is that you can write as much as you want with Instagram, in that little space. Like, you just keep going forever. But Twitter is, especially for a writer or someone that does kind of work within the information realm, it's tailor-made for that. And the cool thing is because they only allow you so many characters, it's like there's not a lot of room for bullshit. It's brevity over bullshit is what I like to say, is that you got to be like concise, to the point, just this is what it is, you know, unless you're wanting to do a 20-piece thread, you know, you got to get to the point. And I think that, like you're saying, with Instagram being the highlight reel, I mean, I've heard people say, look, you can't fake it on Instagram. You know, Instagram is that's where it's all comes out. You could say whatever you want on Twitter, but you can't. And the reality is, you can say whatever you want on anything, including Instagram, because I know a lot of that crap is bull too.
Yeah, and if you want to truly show your true personality, you got to get on podcasts and do long format conversations. That's when your true personality comes out. You know, me and you get into topics we would have never discussed on social media, just because we continue the conversation that's led us to us. Right. Not that we're opposed to talking about it on social media, but we just get in general conversation. More things get brought up, more perspectives get brought up. You get to really see more about who people are. You know, people who just constantly hide behind that great post that they make, or even like on Twitter, you know, that informative post. You really see more about them when they do their live videos. They're able to really dive into the type of information that they know. Like, okay, that makes more sense. And I really think that the podcast too teaches us both how to express ourselves in a longer format conversation, get our points across. But I think it also helps build, and the reason why I do podcasting, because I think it builds a closer relationship with me and the people who follow me, because they get to know more about my personality rather than just the thing that I pre-plan and think out.
Yeah, no, that's I totally agree. That was one of the reasons why I started this Dino Talk thing up, where I talk about the different prison experiences, was because people were getting at me going, hey, you know, we like these interviews you're doing, but we'd like to hear more about these prison stories, more about, you know, we'd like to hear more about what's going on there. And for me, it's just like, I mean, imagine if someone was got at you, right? And they were like, hey, bro, we really want to hear about how you lifted weights last week. Like, you need to do your own show where you just talk about how you did those curls and how you did those back arms, you know? Like, I mean, you'd want to share because they're asking you, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I did curls and back arms. Like, it's just something that was just like, just part of your thing. So I understand it's a lifestyle that most people aren't going to live, and there's a curiosity to it. But at the same time, it's just one of those things to where it's like, yeah, okay, we can talk about that, you know, not a big deal.
Yeah, the dude, it's so funny. My wife talks about this all the time. She always says it's so much easier than what we think it is. And like what people want from us is our complete unique self. Like, they want your experiences, you know, most people haven't been to prison. So sharing prison stories, it's like very intriguing. That's why there's so many prison shows that people are so addicted to, because it's a lifestyle. And I feel like we all have a little bit of that in us, like very intrigued about what's going on in there on the inside. You know, we're more intrigued by it. So I can definitely understand that. My buddy Joel that served some time in prison, and I'd always ask him stories. I'm like, dude, so what was this like? What was this like? You know, and he'd always just like, it doesn't matter what it was like. But
well, for a lot of dudes, it's hard to talk about. It's hard to put into words, and it's not something that they necessarily want to go back to that space. I mean, for me, that was one of the reasons why I got into the writing. It was a way to exercise some demons, so to speak. You know, you get comfortable talking about something and comfortable about going through it. You know, the repetition breeds the familiarity, and you're just like, it doesn't bug you anymore.
Wow, isn't that the truth? I felt that same thing when I started expressing my story. When I started sharing my story, my parents' addictions 5-6 years ago, every time I share the story, it was just so gut wrenching, and I feel like I had a knot in my throat all the time. And the more I repeat it, the more it's just like, not that those feelings don't still exist, or not even that they're suppressed. It's just I have more repetition with it, and I don't always have to be so emotional when I'm talking about it. Not that there's still not times I think about, I'm like, wow, that was really pivotal, and you know, the effect that had on my life.
Yeah. You know, for those, because you brought it up, for those that may not know who you are, or may not have come across you on social media, who is Zach? Where does Zach come from? we talked a little bit about your past right now, and I'm not trying to get you
No,
emotional.
no.
You're like, man, I get emotional still sometimes. I'm like, well, good, let's talk about that.
Sweet, let's talk about it.
Yeah, come on. No, but who is Zach? Where does
Yeah.
Zach come from? What made Zach?
Yeah, so I'm Zach Hummel. I'm originally from a small town. Nobody's ever heard of it. Wellsburg, West Virginia. About 2,900 people lived in our little town, and grew up. I had a relatively. I don't like to act like my story was so bad or worse than anybody else's, but we've had a lot of. My parents had a rocky struggle, especially through my adolescence. I think it was such a pivotal time in my life where my parents fell victim to drug addiction, crack, cocaine, alcoholism, physical and mental abuse to each other and to me and my sister as well. And that kind of lasted from the age of 11 to about 14. So it was a very pivotal moment in my life. My parents ended up finally getting divorced. My mom cleaned her act, moved us out of the toxic situation. But it was at that time when actually I started learning to lift weights, and I was using it as a release. Because at that time, there's two things that I was thinking. I was like, I'm tired of my dad beating the shit out of me, so I wanted how to physically defend myself, and I want to be strong enough to defend myself, which kind of led me into boxing as well. But B is because I was just really acting out. I was real big into vandalizing at the time, whether it was throwing rocks. We called them monkey balls, or like these big green pus balls that keep spiders out of your basement. You ever see those?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, I'll have to send you a picture after this. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
big
It's like a
green,
mothball or something, or
yeah, they're green and like a pus. They have pus that'll come out of them.
oh
I'll send it to
fuck,
you, but basically they
it's
keep spiders away.
okay.
It's like
God, I never heard of that, dude.
they,
Wow.
they come off of they actually grow in a tree, and right around football season, high school football season, they start to fall off the tree. So in our small town, cars drove more around football season because everyone's going to football games. So we'd
Right.
sit out and be pegging cars. I'm 12, 13 years old, a lost kid,
Yeah.
big into vandalizing. It was something that I just kind of got into early, and me and my friends were all real into it. And so I was looking for releases. I just wanted to try to chase that adrenaline high and maybe forget about the situations that I was actually in. Stealing cigarettes from my dad. We'd steal from the local Rite Aid general store. We'd play, 2-on-2 basketball. Me and three other friends who were all lost as well. And whoever lost that day had to go to Rite Aid to steal the fifth of vodka for the evening. So we lived
Yeah.
this way, and through like our seventh, eighth, ninth grade, we kind of lived that lifestyle really heavily, and then got into more weightlifting though. So I started getting into weightlifting. I really enjoyed it. That's when I ran into Joel. I mentioned him a little bit too. He was actually just had gotten out of prison, and
Okay.
had a heart of gold. Would always go to the local gym, train people on his own time. Never charge anybody. So I wanted
Uh-oh.
good at kind of what powerlifting looked like and how to train for powerlifting. He learned through the conjugate system, just got out of prison, so he learned a lot about it. It was teaching me a lot about strength training, powerlifting, and that kind of excelled me into kind of having this addiction for literally 15 years, literally till last year. My
Oh
entire
wow.
identity was wrapped up into how much weight I could lift. And that's why I got to the level I set multiple junior world records. I actually held junior world records that just got broke last year. So I held them for over 5 or 6 years.
Oh wow.
I still hold world records in the International Powerlifting Association Federation for my deadlift at 181, 675.
Oh
Had
shoot.
since then deadlifted 700. So it became an addiction for me though. All I cared about was strength training. And if you'd asked me my hobby the last 15 years, it was only had one hobby. I only had one passion, and I only had one focus, and it was lifting weights, which is
Yeah.
great for keeping me away from it. Kind of like helped steer me and steward me through my I would say my later teens and early 20s when I was always just partying. And I don't consider myself like a drug addict, but I did drugs about every day: Percocets, cocaine,
Yeah.
stuff, through like the college years. I wasn't in college. I was actually a coal miner in West
Oh.
Virginia. So I kind of fit that suit as well. If you're from West Virginia, you're a steel worker. Like you said, you did oil rigs, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
So
was in the
that was
oil
big there.
refineries, yeah.
And then or you're a coal miner. So I chose the coal mining route because I went out to Colorado to work for 2 months iron working, and I
Okay.
realized, fuck this sucks. It was cold, and my
Yeah.
balls were always freezing on the iron. We were building Family Dollars at the time, so I came back, started becoming a coal miner, cleaned my act up a little bit. I bought a house when I was 20, about to turn 21, about $160,000 house. So I was doing well financially in the coal mines, making about 6 figures every year. And still working out, like I said, and realized after 3 years in the mine that my physical strength wasn't able to become its full potential if I was only, working 12 to 14-hour days with hour commutes each way. So I decided to quit my job there, sell my house and everything that I had, pay off a bunch of back taxes because I was found tax exempt from the government for like a full year.
Oh, geez.
Just to get more money because I was dumb and didn't know any better. I didn't realize they'd catch up to me.
Yeah.
When you're 20 and you're coked out all the time, you just don't care about real life shit. And then
no, that's a true story. Yeah.
And then man, so I got out to Indiana. I got a job out here, worked for a supplement company, Muscle Farm. I was a traveling sales rep through the Indiana, Chicago area, Kentucky, Louisville. I worked there for 9 months. They ended up cutting my job. In that time, I'd met my wife that is now. And it was 24 days before Christmas. I had no money in my pocket and I lost my job. So I couldn't provide for my family for Christmas, which kind of escalated me into the perspective of, hey, I'm not putting my livelihood at the disposal of any company or any one man. I'm going to put it on my own shoulders, make my own decisions. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and open a business. And at that time it was a gutter cleaning business and a roofing business because I had done it growing up. And I started playing that out for a second. I'm like, fuck that, dude. I don't want to roof the rest of my life. So I decided that was a bad move. And I ended up opening my gym, Iron Valley Barbell. I opened up IVB with $732 in my bank account. I was completely broke. And if we didn't profit month one, I was going to start going under. I got lucky, got a little subleased spot. And so the rent was a lot cheaper. So it gave me the ability to kind of grow and manifest my vision of creating a culture. I always tell people I never want to get rich off gym memberships. I just want to be able to provide a facility where people can come and be themselves. Like I was telling Bobby yesterday here on the podcast, I said, I like to consider myself C.T. Barnum off of The Greatest Showman. I just orchestrate the circus. So I got a bunch of misfits from drug dealers and drug addicts to pastors and teachers and everything in between. They're welcome at my gym, and we come and we train hard and support one another. And it's come to the point now where we've had customers in over 24 countries and all over the United States come and visit us. So that's my story.
Dude. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And the fact you took, just such a leap of faith like that, because a lot of people, it's bred into us very early to where it's like, you have to have something lined up. You have to have, you got to have something to fall back on. You got to have all your ducks in a row. You have to have the savings. You have to have, but with you, it was like a straight leap of faith. Like it was just like, okay, we're going to do this. And if it doesn't work out this first month, we're going to be in the hole.
Oh, you know what, dude? That's my mom's fault. From age 0 and all through her stuff. And my mom was just the coolest person. She created what the terminology win the day. I say it sometimes now, but you see it all over. Like McDonald's picked the phrase up. I'm telling you, my mom was telling me to win the day when I was like 6 years old. She was really beaten into my mind. She had this unwavering confidence and belief in everything I did. I remember I talked to her, I was 19. I said, Mom, I just want to let you know, I had a very two-way open communication with all things, whether it be, sex I was having or drugs I was doing. She knew, and, she helped steward me through it and knew what to say to me. And I remember one time I said, Mom, I've been, I had rolled my car and flipped out of my sunroof, and the car came back on me and peeled all my hair off. And the doctor said, my hair might not grow back. My fingers were all just mangled and had to get a whole bunch of, whatever, skin grafts or whatever on my fingers to get myself healed back up. I ended up getting addicted to Percocets though. You're supposed to eat them, but I was sniffing them instead. And that kind of spiraled. So that kind of spiraled into, and I told my mom, I said, hey, I've been taking them Percocets like a lot. And I think I'm kind of like starting to get addicted to them. And she just looked at me and she goes, Zachary, it's okay that you have a good time and that's going to happen, but where that takes you in your life and you're going to continue to go down that path. You're going to be a loser. And she named a few people in my life that were still doing those things and the position of life they were in. And, but she had this belief in me. And every time I tell her that I was going to do something crazy, she'd be like, oh, well, of course you can, Zachary. You've been doing that since day one. You put your mind to something, you can do it. that's not even true. Like the half the shit she was saying wasn't even true, but she just kept on telling me that over and over and just distilled this confidence in me that when I moved to Indiana, I thought I would be doing myself a disservice and everyone around me if I didn't move because of how much belief she put in me.
Right. Yeah, that's a trip, man. That's it's crazy that we can have maybe parents that weren't giving us the best example in some ways, but you found silver lining, so to speak, and still got these good qualities or this good example from your mom.
Yeah.
That's really fortunate, because a lot of the times with people, especially the people I've met, not only my own experiences, but people that I've been around, that's not the case. You know, bad parenting usually, or bad examples, usually leads to bad things for the kids. You know, so
Dude, and
that's cool. You're able to glean that, you know, from your mom.
It's so much too. I'm sure you can see this too, Bobby, where you're from as well, and through your experiences, that if the mom and dad are kind of shitty, it's like the kids are kind of shitty too. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
they're entitled, the parents are entitled, the kids are entitled. You know, and what I really think, and I kind of I'm drawing this observation, is that the parents, the grandparents, the kids, the whole entire generation. What I draw the example is, and draw this conclusion is that these people just didn't have good enough people in their life to show them their blind spots. And if they had better people in their life to say, hey, this course correct, and your pride wasn't so big and your ego wasn't so big. And I think that's really how I've been kind of navigating. So I'm at this crossroads, man. I'm 28 years old. I'm shedding my old party skin. I just got married this last year. You know, so I'm just at this crossroads of just relearning my personality, who I want to be in my 30s, and how I want to take my businesses. So I'm very selective of the people that I let speak into my life. But I'm like, hey, I'm fucking up some stuff, and I know I am. I can't see it though. And can you tell me what you're seeing from me? And those things, man, have really just helped excel me, to put me in a position to be able to open the Iron Valley barbell and to kind of do the online stuff and grow the businesses as I'm growing, and kind of be the person I am now.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great. So if you've obviously overcome some obstacles from the past, people that grow up in your situation, my situation, other people that maybe didn't have the best examples, or came from not the greatest background, they don't usually turn out like that. So it is the exception when you see somebody doing well from that comes from somebody like that, rather than the rule, right? So if there was an underlying trait or traits that really helped propel you towards success, so that we've got these people out here that are watching and they want to know, okay, well, how was it that Zach handled his business and was able to get things off the ground? What would you tell people it was for you?
Man, I think I would first start with self-belief, you know, believing and trusting in the decisions that I'm making. And how I'm able to have good self-belief is because I have good self-awareness. I have good empathy. I understand that when I make a decision, it does have a ripple effect, and it will cause certain people to act and say certain things. But if I base that decision off of some core values or principles that I set for myself, even if it does affect other people, I recognize that, well, I'm not responsible for how other people feel, right? Now, if I'm being a dickhead and they're, you know, feeling that way, that's going to look bad on my character. But if I stand true into something because it's directly in line with my values and my core principles, and someone still doesn't agree with it, well, that's just not, it's okay. It's not for them to agree with. So that's probably the first thing, the self-belief, which ties to self-awareness. And the next thing is probably kind of really paralleled with that is don't allow other people's opinions to dictate my emotions and my decisions. So I make a lot of decisions that doesn't always usually make a lot of sense. And that's typically my life. You're going to move out of a $160,000 house with an in-ground pool. You got a new fucking crotch rocket. I had a new chick in the bed every night. Like, what are you thinking, bro? You're killing it. To living in a 500 square foot 1-bedroom apartment in the east side of Indy, lived in the hood. My nickname was literally white boy. I was everyone's favorite guy though. I was the white boy. What's up, everybody? You know, I'm chilling, and
right.
but you know, I just didn't allow other people's opinions kind of dictate my actions and how I chose to live my life, because I did recognize that I was doing things that was very unconventional, it really didn't make a ton of sense to me. So I couldn't really see it to make sense to them. And then I pair everything with my faith. I got big faith. I know God's have a history with God. He's taken me through a lot of things, and he's propelled me into a lot of things. So I always hold true to the Bible verse. I'm not one on quoting a lot of verses, but one that's been very pivotal in my life is Hebrews 11:1, and it's faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. So I've always been sure in what I hope for, and I was certain in it, even if I couldn't see it. So I just visualize it, and then I manifest it, and it's come true. Actually, that I actually visualized this very moment, if you will. I visualized having a podcast and having a space of podcast and having a successful gym and people know me all over the world. And here you are, 2,000 miles away. And I visualized this particular moment at, 5-6 years ago when I was 1,000 foot underground working 12 hours a day. And crazy enough, here it is.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, dude. It's funny you bring up Hebrews 1 because so in Corinthians it talks about how there's faith, hope, and love, right? And Hebrews talks about having faith in things that are hoped for, but hope in the English translation doesn't really translate. And for all you that are watching, I'm not trying to get all Bible geeky on you right now, but I did grow up spending some times in some private Christian and Catholic schools, so I've studied a little bit of this. And the Greek has this word that what we translate as hope, it's really in the Greek closer to expectation, right? So it's when obviously this would be a transliteration because I'm doing not the actual translation, but taking it from, one kind of reading to the other. But it's more like having faith in the things that we expect, right? So it takes away from hoping, because hoping is almost like wishing when you think about it in like the English sense of the word, right? Like you can kind of swap the words out with, hey, I hope I get this, I wish that this will happen. It's kind of like they're almost interchangeable, to where that Greek word, it goes along with things that you expect, right? Like you have the expectation of it happening, right?
Yes.
So you have faith in the expectations that you've set. Now, obviously, that verse refers to God and to being in the kingdom of heaven. But when we look at it amongst ourselves, right, you had faith in the expectations you had set on yourself.
Yes.
You had this belief. You expected, like you said, you saw it, you visualized it, you expected to be at a certain place, and you did it.
And I kind of mentioned, to bring that full circle, I love that perspective. Honestly, that's kind of how I look at hope for my particular self too, is how you explained it there, and kind of how I look at that verse as well. And when I said do a disservice earlier to me and everyone around me, I also mean that too with God. I feel like if I feel now I'm not too big on listen to your heart, bro, because my heart is also very deceitful. My heart says some stupid shit that I'm like, whoa, I'm not listening to that lust or that tendency or whatever you're trying to shoot at me. But I'm also aware that if I don't follow my intuition, whenever I feel like I know I'm supposed to be somewhere, that's God's expectation. God knows he's trying to pull me somewhere, and it's up to me. I have this free will to choose and to act if I'm going to act on it. So I almost thought too that if I didn't go through this struggle and I didn't go through these adversities, I'd actually, I'd be doing a disservice to everybody. And if I'm truly going to be a vessel and, live for God's kingdom. And when I say this stuff, it's not like I'm living this holy life. I'm going to say fuck 30,000 times on the podcast too, and express a lot of things that I've done. But, I have this expectation that if I'm gifted and I just have to work and I have to struggle through it, I'm okay with struggling through it, because I know that this life is just a blimp. People came to America just 3 or 4 people ago, 3 or 4 parents ago came to America. So it's just like, shit, this thing's moving fast and I'm just part of a bigger picture. So I got to do what I got to do just to serve my mission and be a vessel. And it really makes failing a whole lot easier. It's if I fail, like, don't get me wrong, like it sucks, but I'm kind of just, and I'm in stride with it, right? Like I have projects that I do that just fail and just don't really take off like I thought they'd take off. And it's no big deal. I'm just right on to the next thing. Cause I'm like, I gathered a lot of insight from that failure that's really preparing me for whatever's next. And maybe it's another failure that's preparing me for another failure. But whatever that looks like, I know I'm in motion to something that I'm actually truly believing in, which also makes it a lot easier to fail.
Yeah. And if you've got the whole attitude of being able to find the silver lining, I define silver lining as taking a small victory from a greater loss, right? Or from a large loss. So a lot of the way that works out most of the time is by learning something, learning a lesson, or figuring something out, right? Okay, this failure happened, but you know what? Now I know not to do this or that, or now I know what this works and that doesn't work. So when you have that kind of insight, all it does is it makes obtaining that success or the subsequent successes that much easier.
Mm. Is that so what perspective do you look at your losses through, Bobby?
I'm like, just like we were talking about. One of the things, if not the main thing, that got me through the time that I did was I maintained the positive outlook. And that wasn't positive as in like, oh, everything's hunky dory and rainbows and, like, let's just have a smile, It was more along the lines of I was positive that I was going to make it. And I was positive that there was an end to what I was going through and there would be a new beginning, right? And part of that positivity was looking for those silver linings. So whenever there was a loss, whenever there was a failure, you had to look and say, okay, so what am I going to take from this that's going to help me? What's the learning aspect of this so that history doesn't repeat itself or I don't experience something similar, right? That's when I view losses or failures. Yeah, they suck for sure. And sometimes a loss could be just totally devastating.
Mm.
Like there is no recovery.
Mm-hmm.
It's over. It's done. Especially when it comes to life or health or whatnot. But if it's not that serious, to where you do get a second shot, you gotta learn from it. You gotta figure out what went right and what didn't.
For me, how I kind of started to draw those parallels was with lifting. I knew if I
Okay.
didn't lift a certain, if I was going for 500 and I missed it, it wasn't because I wasn't strong enough to lift it. It's because there's a muscle group in this kinetic chain that just wasn't able to handle the load. So I got to strengthen this one particular muscle group, and that's going to cause, my core to become stronger. If my core is stronger, I'll be able to maintain better positioning and I'll be able to lift more weight. So I just drew that parallel with life. When I had a failure, I'm like, same as you. I try to pick out, oh, that's what I did wrong there. I shouldn't have acted that way in the conversation. No wonder our friendship's growing further apart. This is going to be something I should fix moving forward. Was anyone teaching you this, or did you just kind of figure it out as you were just going, as life was teaching
you? I did a lot of reading, and I had begun to dive into some self-help, self-improvement books. I also had a couple mentors in there that were these older lifers that were just like done with the bullshit. They had all the time in the world. I mean, some of these dudes had been down longer than I'd been alive, like they just had all this time to kind of reflect, and they were nice enough to even give a shit to take the time with the kid, in his 20s to help explain things. So I did have a little bit of a mentorship there, but a lot of it was searching. It was reading, and one of the things that I found that's super important is you have to honestly be able to assess yourself. So people lie to other people all the time. Okay. And it's not even necessarily like it's always some type of nefarious, lie. Like it could just be some bullshit off the cuff, white lies, but people they lie to each other often, right? But you don't lie to anyone nearly as much as you lie to yourself.
Mm.
Okay. Like lying to yourself is easy, man. And people do that. Like if you're unpracticed with it, you can do that all day long. Oh yeah, I've got this bad habit, but I've got it under control and it's not, messing up. Oh, there's this going on, but maybe she had it coming and maybe it was just, it's just real easy to just kind of explain away and just essentially just lie to yourself, right? So once you take that out and you're able to look at yourself as if you're not yourself, so like almost like you're the outside looking in and you're like, okay, so this Bobby guy, what is it with his program that's kind of screwed up? And you're just kind of able to look from back here down and answer honestly. Things become a lot clearer and will start running a lot more smoothly.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I love that, man. I love that perspective. It reminds me a little bit of like the term metacognition. So the ability to think about the thoughts that you're thinking about. When I
Yeah.
really started making that a practice, like I'm cut my base real big into yoga and real big into meditation and those things I dabble in very, very little, but my metacognition practice comes from kayaking, hiking, kind of doing the things that I enjoy. And I feel like I get my freedom of mind. And actually, sometimes it's just doing yard work that I'm just doing
Yeah.
monotonous work because my body's got to be, because my mind moves so fast that sometimes like my body moves too. And so when I started thinking about the thoughts I have, I then started drawing it back to my consumption. Okay, why do I keep thinking about these particular thoughts? What am I consuming that's making me have these particular thoughts? And what that actually caused is me to be extremely self-aware of the things that I put in to hear. Like I won't listen to rap music like 99% of the time out only in the gym because
Mm-hmm.
the words that they're using, the
Yeah.
frequency of these words, the terminology and the disrespect that they have towards other people and the lack of respect to life, the lack of respect to women, these things. I was like, okay, that for whatever reason, you rapping about fucking 30 hoes gets me hyped up. So I'm going to lift weights to it. Right. But I know that consumption is just not good for me on a consistent basis throughout the day. I know that Tiger King's hilarious, but if I watch enough of it, I might start doing meth. Not really.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I just
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
these things that I'm consuming are giving me just very distorted thoughts. So I like to call it removing the real estate. I take that real estate. It's not taking up real estate in my mind no more. I'm gonna go and get rid of that. I'm gonna declutter my mind, and that actually allows me to make a lot better choices in my day. And that's something we discussed yesterday was the 35,000 choices.
Yeah. And songs are mantras. I mean, they really are. It Jesus, going back to the Bible, even in the New Testament, it talks about how after they broke the bread, and they sang hymns and they worshiped. I mean, so it's songs for since time immemorial have been used for worship and as mantras to uh, kind of gain a closer relationship or understanding with the Godhead, with the Almighty, right? And I think when you're talking about rap music in particular, and you're talking about, man, like it just gets me hyped in the gym or whatever. There is not a better, more motivational music out there, right? Like pure, self improvement motivational music, if you were, than rap music, man. I
Right.
mean, they're just talking about get money, get power, get respect. You're gonna do this. I got all this stuff. Check me out. You ain't nothing. I got
Ego.
it all. I mean, and it's like, yeah, it gets you hyped because it's like that mantra, it's going through. It's like get money, get respect, and you're just like, yeah, because that's as part of the world, right? That's kind of the goal is you want the success, you want the power and the fame, and the hose in some cases that like people are talking about, but but there's that flip side to it as well. So if you're talking about, you know, that you're going to hurt someone over and over, or you're going to shoot someone in the face, or you're going to do whichever, then you get the point from so much repetition that that starts becoming a thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's almost one of the reasons too. There's some music that it's hard for me to listen to now because of like how depressing it is. You know, just like, oh, she left me, and
I can't listen to that either, man. Same.
oh, I want her back, and it's just like, oh man, get the like because it's like so weak, you know,
Yes.
like just from a and not a physically weak thing,
A
but just
victim.
like this mentally, yeah, like this victim crap, to where it's just like, oh, I don't want to listen to this, man.
Oh, dude, there's so
No.
many country songs, and that's so funny. My wife and I play 90s country a lot. You know, we got, I didn't really, I guess I grew up in 90s. I was born in 1992. So like, I love 90s country though, man. So we'll listen to it. I just like, oh, like, Alexa, next. I was like, I just can't listen to that shit. I was like, I said, listen, his wife, and Ash is funny. Anytime we watch like a 90s movie or anything, I got to assess the movie after. We watch Miss Doubtfire. Have you ever saw Miss Doubtfire? So we watched Miss Doubtfire the other day. And I'm telling you, Robin Williams was the best dad, dude. He was out there really trying to just do it for his kids, but his wife was just so bitter and angry with him that she withheld time and would chose a nanny over him and will end up being him. But after I said, man, what a shitty fucking person she was, just to refuse time with her kids, with the dad. And she's like, you just break down in every song we listen to. You know, at the end of the song, I'm like, so the end of the song, what this guy was stating was that if he shot more people and had more drugs, and if he had nicer things, that more people would respect him. I was like, that's how I lived my life in my 20s. And I had all those things, and people did respect me because they mostly feared me. And I was like, but I was never fulfilled. I just chased dopamine hit after dopamine hit.
Right.
And, you know, when you're younger, I talk to this, you know, I have some 16, 17-year-olds in my gym, and I tell them all this stuff. And I know they look at me like I'm an old dude. I said, listen, guys, I fucking was you 3 years ago. Like, I'm not that far off. I'm telling you, there's just going to come a time where you're going to recognize. I said, but enjoy yourself now and recognize it. I said, but, you know, we are a product of the choices that we make and the people that we surround ourselves with. So just keep that in mind. Just keep me in mind every once in a while. Maybe if you find yourself a little bit too far out of the party and someone has some needles, you course correct a little bit. You know, always trying to course correct these guys, because I mean, I remember Joel. He would tell me shit Joel would roll me up a joint and fucking give me a perk when I was fucking, 20 years old, whatever it was. It was the fucking lifestyle that we had at the time. It was just kind of what it was. But it's just like, he never let me sway too far off. So he'd fucking rock my ass. Listen, you dumb fuck. You got to fucking know your limits and know your boundaries and, what that looks like. And he gave me a lot of good skills that I could build off of. And I feel like that's what's so cool about mentorship, that I'm mentoring guys now. I'm like, listen, you'll be like 10 times the mentor I was because you have a better starting position than me. Joel did his best coming out of prison to give me a good starting position. And he did, good enough to put me in a position that I'm in now. And I said, I'm going to give you a good starting position and you might mentor the next president. So I said,
Yeah, that was, for me, that was one of another big point of why I got into this area and this field and writing about my experiences and doing speaking engagements and whatnot, was just like you're talking about. So I was fortunate enough to have these guys that took the time with me, and to be able to give something back and to possibly steer someone. Because look, they talk about, or it's a saying, a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others, right? So it's like, you got to make your own. You don't got to bump your own head. You saw that guy hit his head, and you're like, oh, I don't want to hit my head like that. So that's one of the big things for me, is that as cool as the money is, right? As cool as it is to be able to get paid for what you like doing, it's even more fulfilling for me when I know that I may have been beneficial in keeping somebody away from a negative lifestyle. I'm sure you could agree with that too.
Oh man, I tell you I tell people all the time when they send me messages on Twitter, on Instagram, and they're just so nice to me and to say things to me that I'm like, wow, I don't deserve you even saying that stuff. I tell them all the time, I said, those words are worth their weight in gold, man. I said, every single
Yeah.
word. I said, that just means so much to me. And it's really what keeps me rolling because now I'm real big. Like I said, I established my values and then I base my, I started doing this about 2 years ago when I had hurt my back. I told you I had to kind of lost my identity with only being lifting weights. So I was redefining, I was still in the process of redefining Zach Homol and who I am. And I'm real big on choosing metrics that I'm setting for myself that's bringing fulfillment in my life. So I
Okay.
do want to have nice things. I want to have vacations for my wife and my kids, and I want to be able to do things that are enjoyable and that I like, but also that comes with me working more. But another metric that I have is spending quality time, and I mean good quality time with my wife and with my little man. And another metric I have is being in nature and making sure I'm there. And another metric is, because it brings me fulfillment, is just hanging out and talking to people on social media or when they come in my gym. Well, all these bring me fulfillment. And if I give equal time to each, I'm not going to progress one faster than the other because it's just a time variable, right? There's just not enough time in
Right.
the day to be able to be everywhere and do everything. But since I'm not so stuck up on culture's metrics of driving a Bentley or having $1 million in the bank, I'm able to fulfill myself by by hanging out at the gym and flipping burgers for people when they come in and helping them with their deadlift. I'm not getting paid a penny for it. They're paying their $35 a month, but it's just, and I spent more than that on all the food that I gave them that month. But it was
Right.
enjoyable for me and it fulfilled me. And that actually matters far more to me than the amount of money that I have in my pocket or the clothes that I wear or the car that I drive. So
Yeah.
that's helped navigate me a lot right now. And actually, it's my anxiety. I have no anxiety or stress mostly because I'm like, I'm just doing the stuff that I like to do, and then I actually set for myself and didn't allow anyone else to dictate for me. And that's something I'm always just trying to preach and to promote to people. Like, if know the difference between happy and fulfillment. Happy says, oh, right now that made me excited, that made me happy.
Mhm.
Fulfillment, and people kind of mix this up a little bit though. Fulfillment is not happiness. Fulfillment is being content in what you do have, but still that these things will reward you. But also in the meaning of content, not so much as, oh, I don't want anything. You can be content and ambitious simultaneously.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And how do you find yourself balancing that? Because as a single guy, it's easy for us to essentially do whatever we want. Okay. Because I mean, I tell people often, hey, man, I lived out of 2 brown paper bags for 10 years. Okay.
Mm.
Like all of my stuff, like I can carry under my arms like this, and it was all good. Like as a single guy, we're able to weather a little bit more, right? But now we're both in similar situations to where, although I've been married for 10 years now, we both have a wife and we both have a child that's around the same age. How do you balance it out for yourself between, hey, I'm gonna do this for the love of it, versus I got mouths to feed, like
Mm.
I gotta make the money on this. Like how do you find that balance works out in your life?
It first starts with communication, since I chose to marry Ashley and she chose to marry me. Now every decision, both mostly that good, bigger decision she makes affects me and vice versa. So I
Sure.
communicate with her on the lifestyle that is she bought into living this particular lifestyle that I'm trying to live. And those are things that we kind of discuss, which make my decisions a lot easier because she believes in the lifestyle that I'm trying to live and she wants to be a part of that lifestyle, and vice versa with her life. So
Hmm.
we both have this understanding of, we want to do well financially, and we both work very hard to do well financially. So we want to reach this level that, we have, and we're pretty much there, and we want to kind of reach this next level. But in order, we're comfortable now, right? So in order for
Right.
us to get to the next level, it took me 20-hour days just to get comfortable for the first 3 years of running Iron by Barbell. Now on year 4, I'm comfortable, but I'm trying to get to the level where I just don't have to worry really about money's not really a thought. Like at Forrest Gump, well, at least I ain't got to worry about that no more. That's where I
Yeah.
want to get. You have to worry about that
Yeah.
no more. But instead of making it, it doesn't have to be such a quick plan. I don't have to work 20-hour days. I said, hey, instead of this project, I plan on getting it out in 6 weeks. I'm going to do it in 12 weeks. Rather than doing 8-hour days, I'll do 4-hour days. And I just kind of manipulate my schedule that way, because in those other 2 hours, Bobby said he's coming into town. Like, I got a lot of people this summer, over 45 people already scheduled for one full day to hang out with me this summer coming into IBB. We're going to go to
Oh,
breakfast.
no.
I'm going to train them, train with them. Then we'll go kayak to my favorite kayak spot. We'll go hike, and then we'll come back to my house and we'll have a little fire and stuff and hang out. And I'll get them an Uber back. If they drink a few beers with me, I'll Uber them back to their spot or whatever. So,
Yeah.
and that's part of my fulfillment, though, is hanging out with people that I meet on social media. I built some of my best friendships that way. And Ashley's bought into that process as well. But we do know that we won't make as much money because we're just giving our time away at that time. But we realize that we want to be available for people, and that's how that we're able to, push the kingdom forward. So we want to kind of play our little role in that. So it's just good communication with her. And whenever I go into, like, I'm in a work heavy season right now. And now I'm in a work heavy season right now. I'm doing far more actual work, and then I'm doing like outdoorsy stuff. So what it might look like is like 4 or 5 days of me just having my head down, 8 to 10-hour days. And I'll go home and spend some quality time with her. And then thankfully it's just been raining though, so I couldn't even really get outside. But
Mhm.
if a nice day pops up, I just cancel my complete day. I say, hey, I'm self-aware enough to know that if I need a mental health day, I literally just cancel my day and say, hey, today needs to be for me and me only. And I need to go do the things that bring me fulfillment so I can be my best self for people tomorrow. And I feel like that's where a lot of people and companies fail, is they don't allot enough personal time off, PTO, pay time off.
Yeah.
My guys get unlimited vacation days. They can take as many vacation days as they want. And I have a system set up because they're trainers, so they cover each other. So they never lose money. If Jay goes for 2 weeks, someone trains his clients for 2 weeks, and they do it for free for Jay, but they leave for 2 weeks. It's vice versa. And so each client, everyone gets paid for it essentially. So you
Right.
have a nice system set up. But when you do this, you create such a healthy work culture. And I've realized it
Yeah.
for myself, so I just rolled it out to my guys. So really, it goes down to communication and then being disciplined in my schedule. Like, I gotta fucking work hard in my schedule to allow myself the freedoms that I want to have outside of my actual duties of having to make money and kind of be of this world with certain things.
That's great, man. I mean, and the fact that you're still in your 20s, although you're about to leave. It's coming. And let me
Thanks,
tell you
bro.
something, man. Let me tell you something. And this is from somebody that's in their 40s, and anybody else that's out there around my age, they'll agree with me. Okay, it happens so quick, dude. Like
Dude.
I used to grow up hearing that stuff to where it's just like, oh yeah, whatever, old man. Like you just want to, and it's really like that. It's like one day you're in your 20s, and then you blink, and now you're gonna be 43 next month.
Mm.
And you're just like, whoa, dude. Like, where did all this time? You know, my wife and I, we were just talking yesterday, and we're like, wow, we've watched each other grow old. Now
Wow. What a
I've known
cool
my
thing.
wife. I know it's a trip. I've known her since I was 14 years old, and we actually both got married to other people, and both got divorced from other people, and then ended up getting together. But her and I had known each other and had been friends with each other since I was, a teenager, right?
Wow.
And and it's a trip because it's somebody that I was always friends with, right? And it was someone that always believed in my ability, to where now that we're together, and like, I'm out here in Romania by myself. You know what I mean? And it's like, with starting the writing, with starting doing everything else, with coming out here, there's always been this thing from her to where it's like, oh, well, when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And I know you're smart enough to handle this or that or whatever. So it's just like, she has this faith that she just
Mm.
puts in me, to where it's just like, yeah, you can do it. That
Mm.
it's just something that she's believed. And it sounds like you've got that understanding with you and your relationship. And I can't tell you what a blessing that is, man, because for so many people, It's not like that.
Mm.
We hate to talk about like how, oh, everybody likes to think that they're the exception, but chances are you're the norm. Like that's the big thing, right? However, when you have exceptional quality, that it's got the word built into it, exceptional, right? So it's like you have these qualities with your spouse. It's really a blessing of the highest form, because there are so many marriages and relationships that just do not have that, dude.
Mm,
Like
mm.
there's either jealousy, or there's either, you're not going anywhere for that amount of time. Oh, what, you think you're going to be a writer? Oh, you're going to start a gym? Oh, fuck that. And it's like those type of things, to where having a spouse that believes in you and your mission is just, it's a gift from God.
It most definitely is, man. When you say, "Oh, you're not going to be a writer, you're not going to open a gym," those are limiting self beliefs that we
Mm-hmm.
project onto others. And a lot of times when Ashley and I talk, it's just like, Zach, most of the stuff you say you're going to do, I don't understand how you're going to do it, but I just believe in you and I trust you that you're going to do it. And what that does is allows me to operate in a much, I would say, freer space where I don't feel like at pressure. Like when I started opening the gym, Ashley never once asked me for grocery money. She knew I was broke. I didn't have a penny. So she fed me for 6 months because she believed in. She didn't ask me for rent. We had just moved in together, and like you figure I'm the man of the house now. I'm supposed to help provide, and I just wasn't, because I just broke. And she was there in that moment, just supporting me and taking me through it. The whole time, and really working with me through it. So I knew also she was loyal and she respected that the things that I was doing, I was going to be able to manifest them with her help. And that's why I say all the time that I literally couldn't have opened Iron Valley Barbell without her. Or without the guys who came in. There's guys who uprooted their entire lives from California, New Jersey, Southern Indiana, another guy from Southern Indiana, a guy from Ohio. They uprooted their lives to come be a part of this crazy ass mission when I was building a team, which what I was really just looking for was like-minded people to pick out my blind spots and help grow me, and me pick out theirs and help grow them, and kind of do it together. And is
Yeah.
without all these people, man, and effective communications, having thick skin to be able to take some hard conversations when they come up, because as when you're growing and you're working through things that are new, and your mind is very focused on certain things, it's easy to forget about how other people feel and what other people actually
Right.
need from you in the relationship. So to have thick skin whenever Ash says I'm failing her in something, like, man, I am. Or my friends like, hey man, you're being very blunt, or you're being too aggressive with your approaches with me, and I don't feel respected. Man, it's like, to be able to take these things, is what I really found has been very pivotal in my relationships, and the loyalty that my friends have with me and in my mission, that these guys would go to war with me. I could call them right now and be like, we're going to war. They're like, we're there. And I think
Yeah.
those pivotal conversations, though, is what's really led us, into that.
No, that's excellent, man. Let me ask you. So in this space that we're in the social media area, uh, there's there's a lot of the red pill, the manosphere type talk, and I don't want to put anybody down for any type of experiences that they've had. My first marriage didn't end well, and it was with someone that was very vindictive, right? So I understand that there's people that have that similar type of thing, and they've let their experiences, their past experiences, continue to affect their future, right? So for all the dudes that, let's say the younger guys, right, that are in this space, and they're seeing a lot of this jargon that's out there about, oh, it's, she doesn't love you, it's just your turn, or oh, don't get married, oh, there's no point to have a wife, oh, don't, you don't need to have a wife to start a family, or any of that type of stuff that's like kind of counter uh, the family unit, so to speak. What's your opinion on that, or what would you have to say about that?
It's interesting to just observe human beings in general. We all do this. We project insecurities. And that's what it is. We project our insecurities out onto other people. So a lot of people have had bad experiences. And, I feel for these people because, when people are biased in any one direction, it's because they had a hurtful experience in something, or someone that they've once known there was a high influence in their life, had given them this type of information, and they saw a type of benefit that they wanted for their life at that particular time. So they kind of hold on to it and they wear it as their badge of honor. So I see a lot of the whole red pill stuff on social media, but really all I see is a lot of just outward projection of an outward projection of inward insecurities. A lot of guys don't have good relationships for the fact being that they carry this perspective. No quality woman wants to be with a man who possesses those type of values. If you love human beings in general, you love all people. Like I send smiley faces to other girls and hearts and dude, love you, homie. You see that in my gym, love you, homie. And there's a certain way that I be with all people, and I give all people love and respect, whether they're female or male, and the different quality of relationships that I have in my life. Like I have a personal relationship with you, but it's nowhere near the personal relationship I have with my wife and my wife's best friend. Me and her text, we talk, and our relationships are just completely different than my wife's and I. So obviously there's going to be different relationships. But what I learn is when people tend to have these harsh rules that they had set forth for themselves with the opposing sex, it's simply because the opposing sex has hurt them at some time. They hurt them at some time in their past, and now that they're trying to just make sure that they don't get hurt again. So that's why they're lashing out and saying the things that they're doing, because it's a protection mode. They're actually a turtle and they're putting their shell back in. See, I'm not. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't run. I'm not a turtle. I don't run from nothing. I'm not pulling, retracting my head.
Right.
I'm looking out and I'm saying, what's going on out here, and what's actually logical and what's real. Don't get it twisted though. When I talked about the quality of women, there's going to be quality women out there who want quality men. And, you get on this other side, the simp thing, right? And you switch over there, and that's a real thing though. Like there's dudes who just allow women to walk all over them, but that's because they don't have enough confidence and self-belief. So that's again an inward insecurity that one time, whether it's their, and you learn in counseling, it's probably from something that they had that traumatizing experience in their past, with a female or with a male, that they act that certain way. So the simp, if you will, has had bad experience in his life, and that's why he responds that way. So he needs more coaching on how to become a more sturdy man, but in a respectable way, not in a way that's very biased and all women are hoes and this, that. A lot of women are hoes. A lot of men are hoes too. It's just like, it's understandable, but there are quality people out there, but you're not going to find quality people unless you raise your frequency to get on the same frequency as those quality people.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with the fact that people that are of a certain caliber and quality are extremely less likely to want to align themselves or bind themselves to someone that is of a lesser quality, right? Especially somebody that very easily is identifiable as having some type of damage. You know what I mean? Like, and you could see these people, you can tell when it happens, and there is this kind of blasé, off the cuff, like, oh, that's just because you're just a dummy that doesn't understand chicks, or, oh, that's and it's just easy to blow someone off instead of doing like how you said, and taking a respectful approach, and even taking the time to work with them.
Yeah,
taking the time to counsel.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. Ashley and I were in counseling before we even got married. And it wasn't because our relationship was just all that bad. And we continue counseling. We're in counseling now. I'm constantly being counseled. I'm constantly seeking mentorship and professional counseling. And I think that's also why I'm a little bit more sound in my life than a lot of people are at my age, because I seek outside information, because I know what goes on in the peer ain't always real, and I think you can relate to that too, Bobby. We have some, we also come from a very similar background, and, while as different generations, my geographic location was about 20, 30 years behind. So the things you said about fist fighting, that was very common where I'm from. So, I know I have a certain particular outlook of the world. I see the world a certain way. And I love to see the world the way that I see the world, but I also want to be able to see the world as other people see the world too. Because I'm able to relate with more people, and I'm gonna be able to serve more people that way. It really comes down into, man, it kind of goes to the end of the day, the insecurities that people have that they're just trying to cover up and mask. Someone who's overly confident and has to be overly confident in one area of their life, you're like, what are you trying to prove? What are you searching
Yeah.
for? You see this a lot with men. Guys are like, guys can't really say much to me too. It's like, I'm fucking tough as shit. I amateur box. I'm fucking world record powerlifter. I have a big beard. I own businesses. I have a smoking hot wife that I bang all the time. Like, I have fucking my life set up, dude. But on top of that, it's like, my wife knows this too. I was dozens, countless women before. I mean, women love me, and I always had a way with women because I grew up with my mom, and my mom taught me how to treat women. So I was also kind of manipulative, where I could basically get any girl I want because I knew how to sweet talk them and love on them in a way that they needed, and just get rid of them. I'm like, that didn't
Right.
bring me fulfillment either, So it's like, when you have these experiences in your life, when I see this whole red pill stuff, I'm like, y'all fucking douchebags. It's just like, it's a very dweeby mentality, and it's not a true man. When you're in your 40s, guys, and you're gonna see other guys, it's just kind of like this. Most younger dudes, probably in their 20s, will be able to relate to this. The old dude at the bar who's still wearing the Affliction shirt with the blue jeans, who's trying to fit in and hang out. That's the red pill guy when he's 40. No quality men in 40 are acting this way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, man. And it's a bummer because you try and it's easier for a guy talk with a younger dude because a lot of the younger dudes realize that there's still more to life that they don't know. To where people that are my age, a lot of them think like they've seen everything that there is to see, and it's just like they've got it figured out,
Mm.
right? So it's refreshing talking with younger people because you realize they're more susceptible to actually listening, you know. Um, and it is like how you're saying, man. There's dudes out there to where um, they don't realize like you should always continually learn. You should always continually try to upgrade. And they just get stuck in a mentality, and that's the mentality that they're stuck in. And those dudes at 40, those are the same ones at 50, and the same ones at 60, the same ones until they're dead.
Sitting at the
I
same
mean,
bar stools, talking about the same
yeah,
shit.
yes,
Get
man.
out of
And
here, man.
yeah, and it's a trip because I'm not saying like it's impossible for people to change, right? Anybody can change. It's never too late.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that I tell people all the time. It's one of my core values, that I try and teach people. It's never too late to turn it around, right? But that being said, most people don't turn it around. They don't. Like they don't ever take the time to reprogram, so to speak, to get the software update, right?
Mm.
And they just stick with the shitty software and the bad programming, and they keep having app crashes and other types of bad malware that's going through the processors, and that's just it is what it is, man.
Wow, bro. I love that terminology you use, software update. I mentor, which is funny. It's funny when I mentor older people. It's kind of just like, I feel it's very contradicting, especially I'm in my 20s. So it's like, I don't consider myself a life coach or none of that shit, but I consider myself a mentor, someone who can help bridge gaps for seasons of people's lives. And an older guy I mentor uses the same word. He goes, bro, I just grew up in a specific culture and a certain demographic. I had very limited demographic too. It's just like, it was all white people and this guy from back home. And I mentor him and help grow him. And he calls it a software update. He goes, it's just like I'm
Oh, that's
learning this new information that I was just never available to me, that I just didn't even have this way of thinking. Like, and there's so many things that were opened up to me when I moved to Indiana that I just never thought about. Like, I'm telling you, it was so pivotal that I moved into the hood. If I didn't move into the hood, if I didn't get nicknamed White Boy, and I'd bring there'd be kids out there like 3 years old with diapers on. I used to always laugh because I'd always get on my car like, "Yo, you got any cake?" Because I'd always bring them cake. I'd go to the
yeah.
store and get them cake because like I talked to the grandma. She's like, "Yeah, White Boy, you give them cake." So these kids are over. I'm in the front yard of this, my apartment, giving these kids cake and stuff. And that's what I was known for. But without being acclimated to these type of environments, man, I would have never had these, greater understandings or perspectives of like, okay, this is what I can actually take and learn from this particular experience, which I think is, something that you and I were talking about yesterday with your daughter and having the experience to travel and, you guys going over. I'm like, wow, that is just so incredible, because I've learned more from just, island. Like, I haven't traveled to Europe or nothing, just islands, Dominican
Yeah.
Republic, Jamaica, that those are just literally like destination islands too. And don't get me wrong, it's not very nice when you go through it. Ash and I are real big into hanging with the locals and seeing what's going on with that whole crowd, but you're more susceptible. You see and you learn more things and terminology and how people talk, and also just how watered down sometimes the Western culture is and how big of a sissies we are about everything.
Right.
You open your minds to all these new perspectives and ideas that I feel like traveling gives you far more experience than the schooling system ever will.
Oh, I agree. I agree for sure. Hey, we're getting to that hour mark, but before we sign off, okay, I like to give people this opportunity that I talk with. So a lot of there's a lot of stuff about us both out there, right? There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of information that people can look up about Zach Hummel. They can see, hey, he's into this, he does that. What's something that people don't know about you, or something that maybe you want to clear up, or just something that it's like, hey, this is what you don't know about Zach?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I'm very I give a lot of myself on social media, a lot of different sides of myself. For the most part, people have a pretty solid understanding of kind of who I am as a person and what I'm about. But maybe something to clear up would be kind of and this is, hopefully this stands true for a lot of different areas as well, as the demographic of gym that I operate. A lot of people talk about non-judgment gyms like Planet Fitness and go to LA Fitness. And, I never felt more judged than when I went to an LA Fitness and I was there, to be completely honest. And I grew up in a gym that's very much like mine. It's like something you pull right from the 80s. This is whole old hardcore iron, right? And, people look at that as like a bunch of meatheads. And they look at it as like, a lot of people, I get this all the time on social media, I'm just not strong enough to come to your gym, Zach, or I'm just intimidated, and I just never want to come off as intimidating to people. And I know that I can carry that set persona sometimes when I'm training and I'm in my intense environment and trying to push my body. But when you come into our gym, you are, and I don't like to say this lightly, like, you are literally loved for who you are, because there are so many unique people that go in there. And I'm telling you, I've saw multiple guys have breakfast together and high fives, from, like I said earlier, drug addicts to cops and everything literally in between, man. And I just want you to know, and it seems to be that way across the board. The hardcore style gyms like mine, there's just good quality community and culture inside of these facilities. So I just highly recommend it. Maybe just check it out. You're going to learn more because you're outside the box gym, and be more susceptible. When a guy comes up at LA Fitness and tries to tell you to do something, right, it's for his ego. When a guy at my gyms comes up, it's like, yo, man, it's externally rotate and open your chest up a little bit. It's because he wants you to bench press more weight, because we want everyone to level up with us. And that's pretty common for the style of gyms that I have. So I just always encourage people to, if you're near the area, if you've ever heard about us, or you have a gym that's like our gym, Ironfly Barbell, in your community, go try them out. Go check them out and see what they're about, because you might just find a whole new group of people that really help level your life up together, and you're also going to get a whole lot better.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And for those of you that are watching, if you look down in the description area of this video, I will have Zach's information up. I don't know if you want to put your gym info or website or anything that Zach wants me to put up. It's going to be down there. So
Awesome.
if you're in Indiana, if you're not in Indiana, but maybe you haven't run across Zach on social media, look down in the description. It'll be down there. Anything else before we sign off? Is there anything else you're working on? Anything that's maybe coming out in the future, or is
Man,
it
Bobby,
just,
it was such an honor just to come on the podcast today. I'm not real big on promoting my products. If they follow me on social media, they'll find me, and I'd love to have, additional people jumping on my programming and seeing them all about. And so yeah, I just want to promote. I just want to promote out now. I think it's great. It's an honor to come in.
Oh no, man. Well, it was an honor to have you. And people, you heard it. It'll be down there. So keep an eye out. Zach, I had fun yesterday. I'm glad we got to talk again. You are definitely someone that I'm glad I got to meet on social media. And for everybody tuning in, I hope you enjoyed this episode. please look Zach up. You can tell he's a good dude. His content comes across as such as well. And thank you for tuning in to Handle Your Business with Bobby Dino. Until next time, stay safe out there.